Okay, Ario, so let's have a look at this chipping action. And the first thing that stands out to me, and especially watching you hit shots, was how far right the alignments are going. And often that can have, quite a big effect on direction control. Now, it's definitely not the only, aspect that affects direction. But in your case, I'd say when everything is kind of like shifted over in this direction here, what tends to happen is the club's also following, meaning that if I just put a line along the shaft here, we'll see that the club gets kind of pulled inside. And I'll actually kind of match these up just so we can see how they look together. So you can see the club kind of gets pulled low into the inside. Not only that, the club face is a little more down than probably what we're looking for. Now, that's not the worst thing for a chip shot, but as we get into longer shots and higher shots, it's going to be kind of problematic because a couple of things are going to happen here. One, you're going to struggle with the loft application, meaning that the face is just going to be way too closed. So that can also affect direction control, and it's definitely going to affect height, which means you've got a lot of work to do going through. And it also say it can affect contact, meaning that when the club gets pulled kind of low to the inside like this, inside obviously is inside, meaning the club's kind of going way under, let's say, this yellow line here. You'll watch as you come through on this particular shot, the ball starts way off to the right, and look, some of that's because of the toe strike. As we zoom in a little bit closer here, we can see that this strike was hit way on the edge of the club, but it's also because you're swinging out to the right. Now, we've seen on some of the shots that you hit that the balls were going towards a target, and again, that's because the face was kind of closing over. One of the other things that we're going to look at as well is the rise of the club going back. So ideally, and we'll look at this kind of in the second phase after we work on your alignment, ideally, if we had a line across the knees here, what we're actually looking for in these small chip shots is we want to see some rise in the golf club going back. Then let's say the club finishing more in a low position. So if we look at yours, what we see is a really kind of low takeaway where the left arm of the club is almost like too straight here. Now, for a chip shot, you can get away with this to some extent, but as we start to get into high shots, it's going to rob us of feel. It's going to definitely rob us of our ability to kind of hit down into the golf ball. And as I mentioned with you, because everything gets pulled inside, the club tends to, bottom out a little bit too early. So club sort of often contacting the ground before it reaches the ball. This was a good one. And sometimes the finish goes up a little bit too high. So we're going to definitely practice two main things here. One is getting the alignments, getting a better understanding and awareness of the alignments. And the other one's starting to get the club moving a little bit more up and down. And again, this is going to be most beneficial once we get into those slightly longer shots when we're a little bit further off the green.
Okay. And how different does that feel compared to where you usually are?
Yeah, it's very left, more
Okay.
left.
If you look over to the right side, those are those are your two golf balls, right, that you hit at the start. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to build a little reference for you. So when you practice, you can set this up. So they will stand open with the feet first.
The right or left?
So you step in with the right, but you can see my body alignment.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah, then set the face second. Then use this as a reference. We're just going to bring the left foot in. But notice my left foot is very slightly open and it's very slightly back. So that should set our alignment in place. So when you look up, your shoulders should feel like they're going almost to the left pillar.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a good thing. But the club face, which is really what the ball responds to, what matters, is going to the target. So in theory, if I just swing back along a normal say swing line back and through, I can get the ball to come out really straight.
I'm doing this the wrong time all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you need to build a reference first.
Yeah.
Like this is a reference. Really close, even closer. There we go, right there. Okay, that's nice. And just hit it when you're ready. Okay, so what we're going to practice on these next few swings, we're going to stick with this alignment. And I'm going to place a shaft just in the ground here. So if you stand back where the camera is there. Yep. So it's the same setup, just that when you swing back, we're going to get a feeling of the club head just stays away from the shaft, and it also kind of moves up. And it also kind of moves up the shaft. So if I actually had the club on here, it would be. Can you see that? I won't put it on the shaft on this one. I'll just kind of miss it. But you'll notice here it kind of goes along the shaft and a little bit up the shaft. When we heard your contacts, they were a little bit behind. And it's because when you went back, even though you set up well, you kind of came back too much in here. Which means the club's going to hit the ground before it reaches the ball. Yeah. So if you want, you can just start here with the club and just kind of just make it come up and down, just so you can feel that. But when you hit, we'll come away from that and just feel like it comes up a little bit. I feel with you, a lot of it was because of your alignment. Like when you aim so much to the right, it's okay. It was a lot better than before. Good. Just leaning a touch left. Okay. Let's keep that set up there. Good. Lean forward just a touch with the body. There we go. Let's go from there. Very nice. Yeah, so what we noticed about the last one, just when we made that little club face adjustment, what we'd say is it was much squarer, maybe even feels a bit open. But the path was much straighter because of the alignment and how we set this up. And the club face was very square. Let's try one more on your own. Very good. But a really good rule of thumb for a chip shot, if I bring the camera around this side, these kind of basic shots around the green where you're really only trying to land the ball 2, 4, 6 meters in the air, not much more than that, and get the ball to roll. You don't need to get the club. If you kind of stand over where the iPad is there, where the camera is, you don't need to get the club any higher than, we'll just say, the level of slightly above the knees, back or through. So the reason why I like the shaft here for these really short ones is you shouldn't go above the shaft. We're basically just staying on the shaft and then come back through. That's more than enough, to pop the ball on the green. So if you watch this one here, it's going to stay below the shaft, back and through, so I can kind of control how far the ball carries. And obviously letting the loft of the club roll out and do the work. So the first few that you did, you kind of went way up here and kind of lost your way on the way down. Just too much for this particular shot. Yeah. So let's have a few more goes and then we can move further back. Nice. Really nice. So I'm going to show you this now because I think you find it really when we're doing, let's say, this little backstroke here. It's a combination of club going up and out, and there's a little bit of play in the wrist. Can you feel that? Yeah. But we don't want to do it that way. Yeah. So it's going a little bit this way. Can you feel that? Yeah. Yep. And then from there, you just turn chest through to hit the shot. Oh.
Yeah. And the good thing is, if I didn't change anything except the club, I'm going to just change the club here. There we go. There we go. There we go. That's what the chip shot should look like with your 60. The shots we were hitting before is what it should look like with the 9-iron. Yeah. So what happens there is you get probably 60 to 70% carry, and then the roll is very less. Yeah, it's quite low. So that's great for downhill chips that are fast. It's great when the pin's very close. The 9-iron's obviously a lot better when we need the ball to roll further. I'd say the key is just understanding, the alignment first, and then where the backswing needs to go in order to to get that solid contact.